hit the button, just wait for the audio cue and you'll know we're good to go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to what is actually episode 10 of Pwnery's Week in Review. Yeah, apparently I can't count, but once I started messing with the playlists, I realized, oh crap, we have done this for 10 weeks straight. How we've survived this long, I have no freaking clue. But what you may notice is that the layout for the show has actually evolved yet again. So I left a little animation up at the top to let you folks know that yes, you can join the Discord, you can join the daily chats, you can join the panel even if you'd like to. Just send me an email in the description below, and that's how you become one of us. So anyway, I've got topics today, a lot of them, we've got a lot to cover, and I've got panelists. So say good morning to Scott and Tony.
Good morning, people.
Morning.
All right, so as per usual, let's go ahead and get into what I like to call the personal week in review. Do either one of you want to go first?
Nope.
Well, I have a gun I gotta go pick up later today.
And what is it?
Another Arasaka.
Oh, that's already in. Cool. So you're going to do 2 into 1, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to take 2 bad ones to make 1 good one.
It's fine. It's fine. So this whole milsurp, what do you call it?
Addiction.
Addiction. Yeah, that's a good one. This milsurp addiction started with me this year, around February, I think. Today actually is the 1-year anniversary of my first gunsmith attempt, where I bought the 9124 Carcano Troop Special carbine, and it's actually, today is the day I ripped it apart and did the video for it, which technically is the first this old gat, but I didn't call it that back then. The revisit is when it became this old gat, and I think that's today, the year of that, because I got a reminder this morning that, hey, you did this a year ago on Facebook. Do you want to repost it so we can ban you? So I was like, no, but thanks for telling me. So yeah, this was a year since I built the boiling vessel. I think Mark calls his Thor because it's gigantic, and I think it's not even Loki. It's like Thor's bootlace or something. It's tiny. But it works. You know, I can boil carbine barrels and actions in it. The pot's big enough to throw all the small parts in. And when I start doing the longer rifles like my Berthier and whatnot, I'll probably have to get a bigger tube and do it outside just because it'll hit the ceiling of my kitchen. But anyway, yeah, that whole milsurp thing started this year around February, and it was just because, you know, I watched SHOT Show from a distance, which had the least amount of coverage that I can remember in recent memory. And it had the least amount of new firearms being offered that even remotely caught my attention. So I sat there and I'm like, well, I got this year, I got a lot of money to play with on occasion, and I want to start, you know, I buy guns every year, like probably somewhere to the tune of 8 to 10 of them. And I was like, I don't really have a shopping list this year, so what should I do? And I thought about it and I'm like, you know, I've got this giant list of milsurps that I want, and I never seem to just pull the trigger, so to speak, on getting them. So the whole thing started with me getting estate clearouts with a friend of mine, and I got the parts and pieces and remnants of a 1903 Springfield, and the parts and pieces and remnants of a Winchester Model 70 pre-64 model, and I bought all the missing parts or made the stocks or whatever for them and put them together, and they came out pretty nice. And then I bought the Argentinian 1891 Mauser, the Krag, the let's see, I'm done doing this in the right order, but I got those. I got the 89 Swiss straight pull. Then I got off my ass and I bought the 7087 Vetterli Vitali. And then I said, let me get the companion piece. I bought the 7188 Dutch Beaumont, which I do have ammo for now, if you noticed in the updates for reloading videos. And then I bought the rifle that Scott bought two of. I bought the Type 38 Arasaka, which had a really cool story when I took it apart. So it has the kanji for school at the top, right where it says 38 type from top to bottom. That's how you read it. And when I took the stock out of the wood, or sorry, when I took the action out of the stock, there was another kanji scribed in on the receiver just below the wood line, and it had Sensei, I forgot his name, it was like Toshiro something. It had the actual teacher's name, and I think he scribed it in himself. So it was the teacher's rifle at the Tokyo Arsenal Academy for gunsmithing. So he would take this gun apart repeatedly and show people that he was teaching the inner workings of the Type 38, how to maintain it, how to repair it, how to triage, how to write it off, how to disassemble, you know, the works. But then he would always put it back together because that was his rifle. And it's got a neat story. I mean, it has the Emperor's chrysanthemum. Yeah, that's it. The chrysanthemum on the top. So it was an actual in-service rifle, and then it was taken out of service, and it had full moons embossed on every pedal. So yes, it was taken out of service, but it was taken out of the service in service of the Emperor to teach the next generation of gunsmiths. So it's a really cool story. And after I got that, it kind of lit a fire under Scott, and he bought one, and then he bought a second one because he had to put two to make one, whereas I think I just got lucky and caught a shooting star. And immediately after that, I bought a 88-05-35 Turkish Mauser, and Scott bought the 88-05 commission rifle. So it's the same essential rifle. Yours is yours is exactly built the same way mine is. So yours is an 88 updated to the 1905 re-arsenal. So it's got a K98 barrel, but no, you still have the jacket.
Still has the jacket.
Okay, so that's the difference.
The 35 is the K98 update.
Yeah, so okay, so yours has the jacket. So yours is an 88, but it's been re-reamed for the Spitzer cartridge.
Spitzer bullet.
Okay.
Yep.
Whereas mine it's the same gun essentially.
I get to shoot modern ammo with the old school looks.
With the old school looks, yeah. So I've got the 88 action with a Kar 98K barrel and the sights. So I get to shoot the new ammo, and I've got the new sights with the new rifling. But here's the funny thing about the Turkish Mauser. It's got the bolt takedown ferrule in the stock. You know, the brass disc that goes all the way through? It's got that. So you can push the firing pin through and unlock the bolt to take it apart. But because it still has an 88 style bolt, you can't take it down through that ferrule. Why they did that, I don't know. But what's really funny is the story I have for my Siamese Mauser, which followed the Turkish Mauser, that has a Kar 98K style bolt chambered in 8x52. And I need that ferrule to take apart that bolt. But the Siamese Mauser doesn't have it. So the gun that needs it doesn't have it, and the gun that has it doesn't need it. And I think I mentioned this last week. So when I do the This Old Gat on that gun, I'm like, okay, so this is how you take apart a bolt on a Siamese Mauser. First, reach for your Kar 98K or your Turkish 88-05-35 so you can use this to take the bolt apart. And people are going to go, what? So there's that. But anyway, we have tangented like crazy. Let me answer the chat questions real quick. Yeah. Sam of Anarchy asks, do I have any M1 Garands yet? And unfortunately, the answer is no, and I'll explain. I find it frankly ridiculous that I can buy milsurps from every country for not a lot of money, and yet milsurps from my own country are insanely expensive. And the ones that the CMP sell The really inexpensive ones are pretty clapped out. Like, they need a lot of work. And I'm thinking, wait, I have to pay more than 2.5 times I paid for my Arasaka that didn't need any work except for a stock screw hole to buy a clapped out Garand that's going to need damn near everything. I find that frankly insulting that we overprice our milsurps. I'd like to have one, but I'm not going to pay like 1,500 for one. I think that's ridiculous. If I can get one for like 650, 750, that maybe just needs like stock refinishing, or maybe I have to boil the barrel and the small parts, I'd consider it. But I don't have one yet. Like, so far the only American milsurps I have are actually just the 1903 and the Krag. I know. He's the one who told me. Mike's the one that told me about the CMP ones. I think he said he paid like 6 3/4 for it, and I thought, well, show me pictures of yours and I'll consider it and just buy it through the CMP. But what I do have that not very many people can brag about, that I paid very short money for, I own a legitimate 1944 Tula Arsenal PU Sniper Mosin gun. Correct scope, correct sights, correct stock, correct matching numbers on every part that it needs to be on. And I only paid $800 for it. My Krag, on the other hand, mine's got the carbine length barrel, but someone put it in a 50s era sporter stock. I paid $310 for it. But you're right, Krags are typically in original trim quite expensive. They used to be $400 to $600. My local's got one that's just, it's a piece of crap. Like, the stock looks like driftwood. It's all grayed and split and everything, and he wants $850 for it. And I was like, kiss my ass. So I bought the sporter instead. I put a scout scope on it. It came with I think it's called a Redfield 210 scout scope mount, which the original owner, whoever sporterized it, they took the leaf out of the rear sight, and then you mount this into it. And it came out pretty good. I put a Vortex, what do they call it? The Vortex Scout Scope on it. I believe it's a 2x7. Yeah, 2x7. And it's pretty neat. I haven't got to shoot it yet, I hate to admit, but I already made the ammo for it. The brass for Krags are kind of pricey right now. But they're really well made. Like, I think I just bought Winchester brass? Yeah, because Starline I don't think makes 3040 brass, so I had to buy Winchester brass. But it's decent. So anyway, sorry, I tangented again just answering questions. Week in review, the shoes that I wear for work, which are just trail boots that are low cut when I wear my cargo shorts, they didn't even last a year. Like, the sole blew out in the middle, like a big lug broke off. It kind of reminded me of when I had Super Swamper TSLs on my Jeep and I was doing 60 and 2 of the lugs ripped off on the highway. It had that same missing chunk of rubber look, and I thought, well, shit. So the day that broke off, both laces snapped as I tied them too, and I'm like, man, made out of the finest Chinesium. So those went in the garbage. So I bought a new set of Skechers, which I thought were food service shoes because of the tread on the bottom. When I changed the color, it moved up to the low-cut trail boot, and I got it for $5 more than the food service. So those came in yesterday, really comfortable. They look good. I think I paid like $55 for them. But I've never had a bad pair of Skechers, so like I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. The third wall mount arrived yesterday too. So I get to do that after the show. I'm going to put the wall mount literally just above the 2 screens I'm sitting in front of right now. I have just enough space for that. And then I will technically be wall mounted out, like I'm done. Because I'm only hanging milsurps on the wall just to get them out of my storage. Let's see, what else? My mom has officially destroyed my laptop. I paid like $1,600 for it about a little over a year ago, and I really didn't have much use for it. And so, as a gesture, I took it into the living room. I hooked it up to my big screen, and I connected it to the internet, and I showed her how to use like my Prime Video, since I pay for it and I never use it. I'm like, this is Prime Video, you can go through all this, and she didn't use it. But she called my uncle, who's also Korean, and she learned from him about Korean television streaming sites. So then when I came home, she's like, can you show me how to use these? So I showed her how to use those. And because she has an addictive type personality, I get up in the morning, she's already watching it. I get up, I go to work, I come home, she's in the same place I left her, and she's still watching it. And then I make dinner, and I feed my dogs, I take them out, give them baths, do whatever, talk to you guys, getting ready to go to bed at midnight, and she's exactly where I left her, still watching it. Anyway, she broke the keyboard, she broke the touch screen. I tried to fix it and I cracked the glass, so I had a hand in destroying it, I guess. She's overheated it 4 times now that the CPU doesn't run at full. It won't run at full load, otherwise it just crashes. So I unbolted my gun money wallet and I bought her a new computer so she can sit on the couch and watch that shit all day again and be judgmental and hate us for bringing her here. I didn't bring her here.
You sure she ain't got a little window of a Tinder account going on?
Hell no. I mean, when I bought this is a Wayback Machines discussion here. My first cell phone that I bought, I don't even think they call them cell phones anymore. That's how old I am. Anyway, my first phone that I bought was in 2008. I know. I graduated 11 years before that when my friends had cell phones, and I didn't buy one until 2008. It was an iPhone 3G, and I kept it for, I want to say, 2 years, and then I upgraded to the 4S, and that was a good little phone. It was a little chunkier, it was heavier, the battery felt like it was a better quality. At the time, it was decent. It was the highest model phone you can get at the time. So I got that one, and I ran that one for 2 years, and then I bought myself a 6S Plus, because it finally, like, I guess Apple in their infinite wisdom finally decided, oh, hey, people like the Galaxy Note, maybe we should make one this size. So they finally did. So I bought it. I gave my mom my 4S, and I put my old phone back on my bill as an add-a-line. So now my bill had doubled, or not doubled, almost doubled, because I financed the phone, my new one. Gave her the 4S, and I said, take this. Here's the thing. I gave it to her, and I said, recharge the battery every other or every third day, depending on how much you use it. This is how you take pictures. This is how you use the phone. This is how you check text messages. This is how you send them. This is how you call. This is how you can check your email. And I set up her email. For the next, I think it was 7 years, I bought an iPhone 5 between the 4S and the 6S Plus, but I lost it in Alaska in a river. Some of you know that story, so I don't really count that because I only had it for like 2 weeks. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so in the 7 years I had my 6S Plus, I held it the longest out of all my phones, obviously. My mom never called me once with the phone because she forgot how to do it. She didn't know how to read text messages. She only knew how to use the camera, and she had like 10,000 emails, which she never read, which sucked. Well, I finally decided I was going to upgrade my phone because I wanted a better camera for the YouTube channel. Turns out the phone on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the 512 gigabyte one, has a 4K camera that's better than all my GoPros combined. So I thought, well, I guess I better buy a gimbal for this. So I did. And then I was going to give my mom my 6S Plus. And then I thought, no, I gave her a hand-me-down last time. I'm going to get her one just like this, so it'll like excite her enough to learn how to use it. So I bought her a 12 Pro Max. So now my phone bill is absolutely doubled. And I was like, here. And she goes, what's this? And I'm like, it's your new phone. And she's like, I didn't ask for this. She's like the hardest person to buy gifts for. And I'm like, no, I bought myself a new one, and I thought it would only be fair if I was to get you another one to give you one just as good as mine. So you have the same phone I do. You didn't get a hand-me-down. I said, please take the time to actually learn how to use this and make use of this because it was very expensive. I got her the 256 gig when I got myself the 512 because she doesn't do video. So I figured she'll never fill the damn thing anyway. And so now she knows how to take pictures. She knows how to read text, but she still doesn't know how to send them. I programmed Siri for her in Korean so she could talk to it, but she doesn't use it, hardly. She knows how to call, she knows how to answer, and I set up everything I could for her to pay her bills through her phone because I kept getting frustrated with the fact that my folks waste half their day on a weekend driving around paying bills by writing checks and going to the places. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. Do it here, watch this, push the button, it's done. No gas wasted. And she's like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do with the whole weekend then? I'm like, I don't know, live your life.
Anything you want.
Live your life. You know, this is how weird they are. When I go out and I come home in the later afternoon hours, I will take the time to stop and pick up something for dinner without even asking them or telling them and bring it home. Like one time I went to get like my hair cut or something, and it's pretty far to my barber. And you guys know this. You find a barber that's good, you don't care how far away he is. You will go to that same person every time. And I found a barber like that, but I have to drive an hour to get to him. I don't care though, because he does good work. So I did that. I came home, and it was like, I think it was close to my dad's birthday or something. So I stopped and I picked up full racks of baby back ribs with all the trimmings. Came home, brought it, put it on the table. I was like, dinner. Took mine, walked away, started eating, right? Every single time my folks go out, if I haven't had breakfast yet, oh, we're going to go to Sam's. Okay. You need anything? They hardly ever ask that, but on that rare occasion, they're like, do you need anything? The place I get the ribs is across the street from Sam's. I'm like, how about bring home some ribs? My mom will lose her fucking mind. The idea of buying food and bringing it to me as a favor is like stepping in hot coals and then pissing on your feet to put out the heat. Like, it's that painful to her to even consider. So I gave her the new phone. I was like, here, use this, learn this. Just take it, right? And here's all your bills paid online.
Ever think your life might be better if you locked them away?
Trust me, that thought has not left my mind. But every couple of days, because the payment dates are all different, she will come walking in here and she'll go, hey, can you check to make sure this is going to go through? Or can you pay this bill for me? I'm like, I gave you the phone, I gave you the apps, I put it in your own language, and you still bother me to do it. She's had this phone for what? Let's see, I got the new ones in January, I think. She's had it for 8 months and she's still doing this. Anyway, so I bought her a new computer. And it's going to fit just above my TV because I got one of those miniature form factor ones. I was going to build her one out of like a fancy Thermaltate cube. And I was going to put in this 9900K processor that I've got sitting on top of my other 9900K processor to build her a badass. And then I was going to, get the plexiglass or the tempered glass cases with all the RGB shit on it. Number one, the case is too tall, so it wouldn't fit where I was going to put it. Number two, she's not going to use any of those features. And when she watches TV at night with the lights off, the RGB things would just blind her like a freaking aircraft spotlight. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. So I bought her a Lenovo because those are pretty damn good. And it should be here sometime next week. So that's my personal week in review and a lot of tangents. Sorry about that.
Well, my personal weekend review is going to be a bit shorter. I did the early watch 3 times. I got laid a couple of times. I mowed the yard once, had a couple of naps.
Didn't you get the jab?
Oh, no, that was last week.
Okay. Teddy got the jab. Teddy got the jab 3 days ago. His boss gave him the day off. And then he said that he felt like he got shot in the arm. And I'm like, well, technically you did. He's like, no, the other kind of shot in the arm. He says, it kept me up all damn night. I wish I had today off too, but I got to go to work on almost no sleep. And I'm like, huh, what a coincidence. Some of you may have seen me on Facebook the other day when the power went out. And that story, like, I didn't even share it in the week in review because it pissed me off so much. I was bushed. I was tired. I was getting ready to go to bed. I had everything sorted out. All the dogs are quiet. I reached for my ceiling fan to turn the light off. Got the fan turned on. I just turned on the window unit air conditioner to start getting my bedroom just so in temperature, you know? And the power went out. I'm like, it's not even raining. So I waited like 10 minutes, checked the power outage application or whatever, and it was like 127 people have reported power outages. System integrity is 99.9%. And I'm like, 127 people. So I zoom in, and it shows this bright red hazard thing out in the woods in the middle of nowhere at the edge of my neighborhood. That's where the service box is. Explosion was reported at service box. Estimated time for repair, 4 a.m. Meanwhile, my bedroom's already getting up in the 80s in temperature. And I'm like, this is going to be a long night. So I laid in bed, and I flipped through the phone app every half an hour or so, checking the estimate. And it was like 127 people without power. And I'm like, no. That service box services 450 houses in this area. They're all out. I got in my car at like 2 in the morning and drove around. I know for a fact it's more than 400 houses. They were all out. All the streetlights were out. I came home, laid back in bed. 1:30ish, sorry. 1:30ish rolls around. And I hear this sickening crunch. And I thought, wait a minute. That came out right outside my window. I parked my car right outside my window. Someone's gonna die. And I reach for my rifle and I go to my window and I look out the window and my car is right where I left it. My neighbor was sitting outside of her driveway. She's at the house to the left of me on the corner of a cul-de-sac. And her headlights are on. First of all, this woman is almost 70 years old. Second of all, she was recently widowed about 2 or 3 months earlier. And she's usually home and in bed before 9 p.m. It's 1:30. That's the first thing that tipped me off that something's wrong. She then starts her car back up, rockets back up into the driveway, cuts into her yard, almost hits her tree, gets out and goes in the house. And I'm like, what the hell was that all about? And I'm like, I'm not going back out to find out. So I figured if she had hit my car, she probably would have walked over to my house and tapped on my window or something. Because everyone's got no power. The streetlights are out too. Next morning I get up. Oh wait, sorry. 4 o'clock rolls around. I check the app. Power's still out. New update. 450 people are without power. System integrity 99.9%. Estimated time of repair 7 a.m. At 4 in the morning, my bedroom is 86 degrees. Because it was still 90 outside. My dogs are all laying in their individual beds, panting away. So I go to the refrigerator, open the melting ice box, grab a whole bucket of ice and water, dump it on them, in a bowl and give it to them. And they're happy. I'm not. I finally fall asleep at 10 minutes to 7. The dogs see daylight. They want to go out. I let them out. I get back into bed, and the power comes on. 10 minutes to 7. I lay in bed. 90 minutes later, the alarm goes off, and I got to go to work. So when Teddy said getting the shot kept me up all night, I had no sympathy for him.
Now, wait a minute. After the whole winter fiasco, you don't own a generator.
I do. And if I had gotten up when the power went out at midnight and walked outside to my shed and moved my lawnmower and about 1,000 pounds worth of tools out of the way and then dragged the generator out and then plug it into, say, the refrigerator, and the power would have come back on, I would have grabbed that generator and hurled it like freaking the Incredible Hulk. So I was just trying to wait it out, thinking, oh, it can't possibly be that long. There was no storm. There was no thunder. There was no lightning. There was no rain, no wind, no nothing. So I just thought it was a fluke thing, you know? Like, tripped a relay, someone's going to come out there and flip it. Didn't happen. Anyway, the next morning I get up, I walk out, and I walk around my car. Everything's fine. All my neighbors' vehicles are gone. There's like, they have like 4 trucks in a car, one including a box truck. All of them were gone. The driveway was empty, and I'm like, huh. I look at my neighbor's car, and it's still in the yard close to the tree. Now, bear in mind, this woman doesn't drink either. She must have just been tired and panicked or something. And her bumper had like a scuff on it. So I walked over to the car, and I peek underneath. And the crash beam under the bumper is just folded in. And I'm like, huh. At the foot of her driveway, the mystery began to, unravel. And I'll save it to the end of this. So I go to work, grumpy, made my day out, came home, all my neighbors are home. They have a Nissan Frontier crew cab, and the door was crushed in. And I thought, okay, well, that's what she hit. So what had happened was, she came home, it was like close to 1:30, the street lights were out, all she had was her headlights, and when she pulls into her driveway, I could walk faster than she drives. So she was crawling into the street up to her driveway, and yet she still somehow managed to run over her own cat at the foot of the driveway. And I think she heard it, and she panicked, and she threw it in reverse and slammed into the truck behind her. And then she drove back up the driveway, realizing that the cat was dead. Because when I went out to go inspect my car, the cat was still at the foot of her driveway with its head crushed. So that's what happened to her. Why did I even tell that story?
I was just thinking that fucking same thing.
Sorry, I forgot why I even
Because we're
told
already
that story.
35 minutes in.
Yeah,
We still
we're
haven't
already
get to a
35
topic.
minutes in. I can't remember. There was a reason I was trying to tell you that story. Oh, it was part of the week in review.
Crappy day.
No, it was part of the week in review and why Teddy said that he didn't get any sleep. See how bad I am at stretching out things after I get started? You can't let me do that. Runaway Train. You ever see the movie Unstoppable? Yeah, that was me right there. But I'm not the guy who's going to work in the fast food industry at the end.
I was going to say, more like throw mama from the train.
Shit. No, that's living at Patrick's house. You ever hear Patrick's mom when she's talking out in the distance, right? You just wait for her to go, Owen! I was like, you are so lucky she didn't name you Owen. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, don't you remember the movie? He goes, I hate you so much right now. Because he tied the two together with his mom. He's like, I hate you so much.
Hey, just be thankful she don't have a Korean accent.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's what I got to deal with. Crouching dragon, hidden asshole. That's what I live with. Anyway. Alright, I guess we should get into the news. I mean, you guys have put up with my nonsense for the first 33 minutes. But that's what this show's all about. Well, hang on just a sec. Before I start the news, first of all, thank you all for being here. And second of all, you may have noticed that, yet again, I have evolved the layout of the show, especially if you're watching it as a video on YouTube or in the playback. You also may notice that the chat looks different in the video than it does for you guys in the audience typing in that box. I can change the visual looks of it on the YouTube video, but I cannot do it on the box. Sorry. But yeah, I added the animating top thing because I had thought I have gotten a few emails for people wanting to join the server. It is open to all of you, like especially if you're like a former Gun Channels member or somebody who knew one. I took the address out of the screen, but it is in the description below because it's a long address. Just cut and paste it. It'll work, I promise. I checked it. If you want to be part of the panel or part of the chat, you're more than welcome to. Just drop me an email at that address. If you're a Gun Channels member with a new name now, just put your old name in there just so I recognize you. I'll still send you an invite. It'll be a one-time permanent invite. That way, if you don't catch it the day I send it, you can still get it later. It'll still work. Us, this panel, and many others, we chat every day. Usually it's in the top channel that says Lobby for Working Stiffs. because that's what we do while we're at work. I mean, who wants to be productive, right? Actually, no, we are. We're all very productive. We have a lot of tradesmen. We've got a couple of retirees, medical and whatnot, but still, very eclectic group. We still talk every day, despite the fact that some people demanded we do so live every day. That would not be practical. But yeah, we do it every day. The very thing that they asked for years. If you want to be part of that, drop me an email. I'll send it to you. We're in there Monday through Friday, generally between 10 to 5 Central. And then we'll be here on Saturdays for this show, Week in Review, 10 to noon every Saturday so far, as long as you'll put up with us. So there's that. So let's get into the news, because, that's what you're here for, right? I would like to start off with Cori Bush. She is a squad member. She is a congresswoman from the state of Missouri. And now she's in the business of threatening the lives of her constituents. So, if you didn't know about this, Cori Bush reacted to the McCloskeys being pardoned by Missouri's governor. And if you don't know who the McCloskeys are, there was a riot, protest, depends on what side of the media you're on. There was a civil action. There were criminals breaking and entering. There, I think I've covered all the bases. They tore down a gate into a private gated community with the intention of destroying it. There's no two ways about it. Your intentions were laid bare as soon as you took down the gate. So these two people, they're both lawyers. I don't think they're criminal lawyers. I think they're some sort of corporate business type lawyer. Decided that they were not about to become Minnesota-style victims, or Seattle-style victims, or Portland-style victims, or Ferguson-style victims, or I can go on forever. They didn't want to, not today. So they came out, husband armed with an AR, wife armed with a handgun, and they stood there on their property protecting their interests, which is their right. Now, maybe they waved the barrel towards the crowd. Maybe they got hit for brandishing. Maybe they had intentions of scaring them. The courts decided that you have to turn over those weapons, one of which didn't even work. It was a disabled pistol, but the mob didn't know that, so it worked as the talisman it needed to be. All charges were eventually dropped. They were pardoned. They did turn in the AR-15 and the pistol to the police for state's evidence. They did not ask for it back. As soon as they were set free, they turned right around and bought a brand new AR-15, did a selfie with it. Because it's their right to. They're still law-abiding citizens. Those people. This woman, Cori Bush, this congresswoman, this squad member, this political agitator and shitbird, basically said, your day will come. You may have gotten away with it this time, but your day will come. What does that mean to you?
Sounds like a threat.
Sounds to me like a threat against their well-being, their lives, their livelihoods, you fill in the blank. As a juror, or as a person on a grand jury to determine if a case could be had, I would say that is intent to harm others. I would also say that this is not behavior befitting of an elected official who is supposed to represent everyone in her state, or at least her district, regardless of color, political affiliation, or whatever. So where's the outrage? That's what I want to ask you guys. Where's the outrage? Where's the emergency election session to get this agitator out of Congress? Because she's clearly biased and she's clearly agenda driven. All Congress people are agenda driven, but this is nefariously agenda driven. You know, you go in saying you're running on a platform to get something done. That's a positive agenda. This is not. This is criminal behavior. This is behavior befitting of immature and peevish people. This is not what the people of her district voted for. At least I hope not. She doesn't represent them. So why is she getting a pass?
What needs to happen here is Missouri's governor needs to step into this.
Well, he's the one who issued the pardons.
I know that.
You notice he issued the pardon after they made that deal.
I think it was just to protect them from any further prosecution.
He said right off when they first got charged that he would pardon them.
Yeah. Yeah, because he saw the wood for the trees. He was like, they didn't do anything criminal. They were on their they were on their property protecting their interests. And nobody got hurt.
Well, he's also a politician.
Right.
So he did it when it was politically safe for him to do it.
Well, he's of the correct party that most of us would want overwatching our well-being. I had a really hard time wording that. Yeah, but he is of the party that we align with. Let me put it to you that way.
He couldn't
but
hardly
he also
pardon
waited
him.
till- He could have pardoned them right away if he wanted.
No, he couldn't have because he didn't know what they was charged with.
That's correct. He had to be updated on that. The
Yeah,
governor
once
does
they've
not
been
know everyone in
charged,
their state.
He could have pardoned him.
Right. Then it would have been brought to his attention.
Technically, he couldn't pardon them until they were convicted of something.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because the thing is, they pled no contest, right? Which means it is an admission of guilt in a way, but because they knew it wasn't really a criminal felony or anything like that, they took it. They were just like, look, whatever gets this process through faster. They're not dumb people. They're educated. They're legally minded. They're lawyers, you know?
The most beautiful part of this whole thing was they walked out of court to a gun shop and bought another one.
And took a selfie with it. It was great. It was like, the system works. I think he even captioned it like that. He goes, this is to show you that the system still works. I protected myself. I protected my belongings and my family. I had to surrender that firearm because it was state's evidence at that point for something that I did plead no contest to. So he understands he had to forfeit that weapon because it was evidence in that case, which he did plead no contest to. That's fine. They didn't say he couldn't buy another one, which is exactly what he did. He played it to the letter by the rules. And he had the wherewithal to know that he didn't even walk out to the sidewalk in front of his house, because technically your property in most states ends at the sidewalk on your house side of the sidewalk. He didn't cross that barrier, which means he wasn't on, quote, public land yet. He was still protecting his, quote, homestead.
Well, he wasn't on public land to begin with because that was a private road.
True, but each individual lot, the road up to the sidewalk on the road side of the sidewalk is still considered like the city or the county or public road, even though it's in a gated neighborhood.
Not on a private road, it's not.
It's not a private road. It's just a gated community, but there's still city-made road. There's still city and county mandated roads.
No, that's the thing. The city does not maintain that road at all. That is a true private road.
Well, okay, in that case, yeah.
The city has no responsibility.
Well,
if it's all potholed, that's on them.
Even if that's the case, he still played it as if it was to cover his ass. And that's fine. Like, he just double covered his ass then. Even though you just brought up a good point. The law will always find a way to split hairs. It's like I laugh all the time when people are telling me that 10 years from now, when they were like, you see a commercial and it goes, did you receive a COVID-19 vaccination, but now your asshole is turned inside out and churning buttermilk like a whale coming up for air? You may be entitled to compensation, right? I always bring that up because the first libtard response you get is, they can't sue. The government protected them and said they can't be sued. And I'm like, really? You mean the same government that created the ATF who constantly moves the goalposts? You mean the same government that constantly changes the election rules? You mean the same government that constantly denies us our constitutional rights? That government? Really?
When you hear that from somebody, say, look up Ruby Ridge.
Well, the best part is I've heard that talking point from even my fellow conservative friends, including my mentor. And as soon as I said that, the same government thing, that whole spiel, he stopped instantly. He goes, I stand corrected. Because it's true.
The dude from Ruby Ridge sued the government and got $3.1 million.
Yeah, but they kind of put the kibosh and kept that real quiet, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's out there now.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a story in between this story. I got to get her face off my screen. It's going to make me vomit. What was I going with this? Shit, as soon as I took her picture off, I forgot. Nah, screw it. Sorry. Typically when I do these, I do 6 stories. 5 that are actually stories, 1 to sort of make you feel good. One of the 5 is usually a story that's local to me. But this week, I decided that I was going to pick a story that was local to Tony. So,
yeah.
I call this one, Oh My God, Hacks. The Illinois FOID system, here, has been hacked. This prevented all new applications for FOID cards from being accepted. It's been over a week, I believe. They did an update, I think it was yesterday, and according to the update, it's still not working. So, here's the deal. If you have a FOID card and you want to buy a firearm, you can still do it. You still have the card. If you need to renew it, as far as I know, the system still works. If you're a new gun owner, tired of Chicago's finest examples of law-abiding citizenry, you probably couldn't get a FOID card this week. Here's an idea. If you can't fix it, and it doesn't work anyway, why don't you just get rid of it? Because I don't have them in Texas. I'm sure Scott doesn't have them in New Hampshire. I'm sure most of you don't have them in your states.
Every gun owner has to pay $1 a year for that thing, so they don't want to knock off them big bucks.
They don't want to lose the tax revenue, but the people need to realize that they should demand that the government lose the firearms registry that is tied to, because it's none of their business what you own. You're a private citizen. You haven't broken any laws. You paid your money. In my state, you did the federal background check. So that should end right there. Like, done. I did forget to leave one thing out of my weekend review. I'll cover it later, but yeah, just get rid of it. You don't need it. Like, make the money up somewhere else. Build another toll road. You guys are good at that. Get rid of it. We don't need them in Texas. You don't see us having a bloodbath of gangland hellhole nightmares in the city of Houston. Yes, the city of Houston covers stories every day of shootings. It's usually to the tune of 2 or 3. This is also a place that's got like a square mileage of like, what is it, 30,000 square miles or something. So, and it's got 8 million people in it. 2 or 3 ain't bad compared to what you're getting in Chicago, which is like 2 or 3 an hour. And if you don't believe me, there's a website called heyjackass.com. The guy who runs it subtitles it, displaying all of Chicago's finest values. He's just sharing Chicago statistics. Anyway. Yeah, they got hacked. Get rid of the system, then they won't have something to hack. Go to the federal, 4473, call it a day.
They just made and signed into effect a bunch of new laws to fix the FOID system, so they're not going to get rid of it.
Well, the fix is to get rid of it.
I know the fix is to get rid of it.
So,
but as long as Chicago is part of this state, they ain't going to.
Yeah. All right, so even though Illinois hasn't been able to have new gun purchases for the last week for FOID owners, or for FOID applicants, July has set The second highest record for background checks ever. Ever. 1.3 million background checks. To all you 1.3 million people, or to you 860,000 people who may have bought 2 guns, 1 or 2 guns, sorry, math is not checking out. Welcome, congratulations, you're now one of us. Please don't abuse your liberties and freedoms. You know, understand why people fought and died and went, you know, worked so hard to give us these. But the thing I really wanted to touch on, actually, was we should remind you, all of you, new, old, current, whatever, ammo shortages. It is on the way out, but to be fair, every time someone buys, a new gun owner buys a new gun, they're going to fall into the same sort of pattern. They go, they buy, the really good informed buyer watches like reviews and videos, maybe reads up on it, maybe asks people, maybe goes to their range and rents a specific pistol to try and see if they like it or if it works with them ergonomically, and then decide this rental gun was really good, what's the model of this? And then they write it down and they make themselves a list. When I have friends that are first time or potentially first time gun owners, they ask me these things. They were like, well, how do I know which one to buy? Because I don't want to just go into a shop and listen to the sales pitch. And I always tell them, go to a range, just stand behind the counter for a minute and look at the entire rental wall. Take into consideration the size of your palm, the length of your fingers. If you're left or right-handed, maybe ask if it has ambidextrous controls. And then rent the gun. You know, you could pay like, I think it's 15 or 20 bucks in most cases. And then they have a rule that you have to shoot their ammo, so they'll sell you a box or 2 of ammo, and then they'll put it in a little cubby thing and walk you to the range lane with it to make sure that you took it there. Do that. And it's going to cost you a bit of money, but you just, you know, you rent like 4 or 5 guns, maybe not all in one sitting, or maybe all in one sitting, because you're doing research and, you know, R&D. You're like, I need to know before I put a couple $100 down. Spend $100, go to the range, rent like 5 or 6 guns, a couple boxes of ammo, get a couple of B9 targets, set that joker out at 10 yards, and just see which works for you. Does it fit in your hand well? Does it, do the sights work for you? Does the controls work for you? Are they soft to the touch and not cut you every time it goes off? Does the trigger guard smack into your knuckle and hurt you? Things like that. Take all those into account. If all the answers are positive, write that one down on a card and put it in your pocket. And then, you know, once you go through like the 4 or 5 guns, if none of them appeal to you, go back, and if they have 4 or 5 more guns, rent those. Or go to another range completely and see what they've got on the rental wall and rent those until you finally make yourself a list. And let's say you narrow your list down to 3 guns. Then go home, then research how much it costs, then research what caliber and how much the ammo is. Go from there and make an informed decision, right? So then you get to this point where 1.3 million background checks were done. Let's say, realistically, that only 60% of those were brand new gun owners. I think that's a fair estimate. Every one of those people are going to buy the gun. Let's say they did all the things I just described. And they were like, yes, I want this, let me pick a good one, Glock 43X. Okay? Like, I rented it, I liked it, it's not too expensive. Apparently there's a company that makes magazines that hold 15 rounds. Shield, by the way, Shield Arms. And it's not a plug for them, but yo, if you want to send me mags, cool. Anyway, Shield Arms mags, 15 rounds, that's great, right? So then they buy the gun, and they were like, oh yeah, give me 2 boxes of ball ammo, and maybe a box of Spear Gold Dots, okay? That's 100 and, let's say 120 rounds of ammo the day they purchased. If it was 60% of 1.3 million, that means, let's say, 675,000 people just walked into a store that month and took 120 rounds of ammo off the shelf. That's in the what, tens of millions, right? That's how much ammo just disappeared off the market. And it doesn't sound like much to you and I because it's only 2 boxes of ball and 1 box of defensive. But when you take the magnitude of people who just bought that, and then you go to like Bass Pro and all the herders is gone, now you know. Even though it's on the rise, ammo is becoming more available now. Anytime you see a dip like this, look at the number of background checks that were done and see if it was just an influx of new shooters. That's fine. Artificial shortages, that's the ones that should piss you off. If there's no background checks done, like a real low number, and then all of a sudden all the ammo dried up because nobody decided to make any more, or they didn't want to open a new lane at the factory to create more ammo for a temporary glut in demand, then you can be pissed off. But I'm happy to see that the trend is going in the right direction. 1.3 million just in the month of July. Freaking awesome. Y'all got anything on that? No?
What else is there to say? I mean,
I don't know. I have a bad habit of not shutting up.
I don't hardly ever look to buy ammo, so
Yeah.
I haven't really noticed the shortage myself.
Yeah, I mostly roll my own. Just some of the weird oddball calibers I can't, or they're just too cheap to buy or whatever. I used to say that about 9mm, but like y'all have seen me make it 50 rounds for $5. Like nobody is gonna sell you 50 rounds for $5. I can make it though. One of these days we're gonna get into that. I actually last night when I did the show prep, I was going to introduce part of the show as a conspiracy theory segment. And I think I might have talked to you and Scott about this, about the whole China thing with the population changes or whatever. And we may still get into that if there's time today. I'll save it for the end. Just keep that in the back of your mind. And those of you watching, if you like E Honda's type conspiracy chats, I might borrow an element of that for something that's been on my mind for a couple of days. I'm part of a group here in town. I'm a co-founder of a group called America's Common Sense Brain Trust. And what it is it's people much like our group here. They're all eclectic. They all do different things, but they all have the same sort of political affiliations, and we all kind of align together with most things. And, what we have decided is the nation's run by fucking idiots. And the reason that they're run by fucking idiots is because the majority of the voter base are fucking idiots. And the reason that they're fucking idiots is because this country lacks common sense. Now, most of the people here
it doesn't take a brain trust to get to that conclusion.
No, it was just part of the name. I thought it was a cool name. But anyway, it's because people lack common sense. Most people. There's a saying, I think in Men in Black, like, individuals are amazing and wonderful things, but humanity as a whole is just full of stupid and fickle little people. And
I
right.
believe it's mostly, it's to the same point, but individuals are smart. Large groups of individuals are stupid.
The quote is, person is smart. People are dumb, stupid, panicky animals.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Man, that's for the first time I couldn't get the quote right. Thank you. But yeah, it's true. And so we created this group, and we used to meet once a week, before COVID, and we'd all get together and we'd discuss these things. And we would do it in a public place, and we would talk just loud enough to where people around us could maybe hear or catch an element of the conversation. And then they would come over and they would say, hey, we kind of like what we're hearing. Can we join you? Because of the way we've been doing this, we had tripled our numbers. And now we actually have to ask the restaurant to open an hour later so we can have the whole place. I mean, that's how much this has become a thing. And like, one of the guys is a web designer. He's created a website for it. And I told him that we were probably going to do a forum, but then I started the Discord here. And I thought, you know what? Maybe we'll just bring them here. So I don't know if I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet because Calvin. Anyway, next story. We're getting through this pretty well. Now, I subtitled this kind of in a weird way, so I'll read it. I called this tab LOL Mexico, but here's the tab. And the subtitle I wrote was, Mexico, in its infinite wisdom, can't beat the cartels. So instead, they're suing firearms manufacturers in a courthouse in the state of Massachusetts, where the state troopers are all dressed like SS troops. Yes, I just broke Godwin's law, but you can't deny that they don't look like SS. In other news, after the stupidity of Remington offering up $33 million to Sandy Hook victims, Mothers Against Drunk Driving will now be taking on Jack Daniels for every DUI in the past 100 years, and Ford for providing the Mustangs their drunken owners have plowed into crowds with. We have reached peak absurdity in this country when another nation is going to try to sue gun manufacturers in our country for the problems of their country and their inability to eradicate organized crime. I'm sorry, we had gangsters and mobs in the 40s, in the 20s, through the 70s, and we eradicated it. They're underground now. You don't see people beheading dozens of people that they're against and leaving them in copper mines. You don't see that in America. You can just, take control of your own country and solve your own problems. But the best part is that headline. Mexican government sues Glock, Barrett, S&W, and Colt Arms over crossing the border. You know why I really emphasize Barrett? Because the Mexican army has a special forces unit that is entirely equipped with Barrett rifles. We're talking battalion-sized. They all carry Barrett 50s. All of them. They're going to sue the manufacturer who provides their special forces with the tool they use. I'm sure that's going to go over real well. None of this is going to stick. Like, even in Mass. They picked Massachusetts because they thought they'd get a favorable outcome. I'm sorry. They're going to get laughed the fuck out of the courtroom. They're going to be like, first of all, we're not here to solve your problems. Second of all, did you cross into this border legally? Ha 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 ha. Third of all, because you let so many people cross into your border like a damn sieve, why do we care about anything that you bring to us? Fuck out of my court.
Well, now, the liberals will align with them.
They're trying. I think Scott mentioned
and that's the dangerous thing.
Well, you mentioned somebody was backing this, right?
Yeah. Certain well-known gun control groups are advising the Mexican government on the lawsuit.
Yeah. So ever since this Remington payout thing, we talked about it here.
No, I think this was in the works before.
Probably. And they're just enacting it. But I mean, we talked about this last week. Remington has opened Pandora's box because now this is going to continue. Mexico's going to do it. I don't know, maybe Canada will do it. I mean, it's going to continue. And
so is Canada going to sue China?
For Polytech?
Flooding their shores? Yeah.
I don't know. Ask Night Strike, he bought one. Anyway, yeah. They opened Pandora's box. And, I don't know. I think we already reached peak absurdity, but it's about to get a whole lot worse on the legal front. At least for nitpicky little things like that. They're not going to get a dime.
I really wonder how it come down because Remington doesn't really exist anymore.
They got bought out.
Do not ask me.
See, I just had to wave that cheese, and here came the rat.
and it's Norinco that Canada has. They don't have Polydex. Polydex been out of business since the late 80s, early 90s.
I swear I just heard you call him China-da, and I love it.
No, I said Canada, but you heard China-da. But, there you go.
Well, they
I
own
love
parts
it.
of Canada, so...
They own parts of Canada, and they have troops in Canada. Why not? Why the hell not China-da?
Oh, we'll get into that. Trust me, before this show's over, I'm going to get into that E-Honda level conspiracy. All right, so this one, I don't know if I want to share this one. Like, it's kind of funny, but it's not as bad as I thought after I read it 3 times. Do you guys remember back in 2016, there was a writer, and his name was very fitting. Gersh Kuntsman. That was on purpose. He went to a range, and he decided to see what's what. And he rented an AR-15, and he shot it. And he described his experience as if he was Hillary Clinton dodging sniper fire coming out of Air Force One in Serbia or wherever the hell she lied, where she had that happen. Like, he was talking about the smell of burnt gunpowder and brimstone, and how the ringing in his ears didn't go away for hours, and he had PTSD and the shock to his system every time the recoil slammed into his shoulder.
Was that from firing an M16 or an AR-15?
Yeah, just an AR-15.
I call bullshit.
From 2016, and there was like an 8-year-old little girl in the lane next over going, "Mister, are you okay?" as she mag dumps hers. There's a really famous meme about that, where this girl's holding a pink and purple AR, and she's like, "Don't worry, Mr. Kuntsman, I'll protect you." Anyway,
I mean, if an 8-year-old can handle it and not get PTSD, then, dude, I hate to say it, but you might have something mentally wrong with you. You might be a natural born pussy.
8-year-old girl. But anyway, he was in 2016. Meet the new one. Yep, that's him.
Oh, God.
That's your metrosexual of the week. His name is, where did it go? Kevin McCallum. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and he decided that he was going to go to Vermont's only gun range. It's called what is it? There's a name for it here somewhere. I forgot. It's got a cool name to it, actually. Perro's Gun Shop in Waterbury. So he rents an AR-15, and I think he rented a 9? Yeah, a Ruger 9mm pistol and an HK AR-15. So he talks about how he's not a gun guy. He hadn't handled a firearm since he was 35 years before with a 22, right? So yeah, this guy's already qualified as a master of arms. Just let's get that right out there, right? I haven't done this in 35 years, and the only thing I ever shot was a 22. I'm sorry, was that to like appeal to FUDs? Like, what do I care about what you shot before?
Hold up. By the way, even if you're shooting an AR-15, it's still just a glorified 22. Just FYI.
Well, yeah. So anyway, so he rents the firearms. He goes down this, he's got 10 lanes to work with. He sends out his target between 5 to 25 yards. He shoots the 9mm pistol, and the range safety officer basically takes him there, walks him through the process, just like for a guy that I was describing earlier who's going to rent guns to see what he wants to buy. It's the same process, right? And he talks about his experiences, and he doesn't do it like Kuntsman, right? He was like, I lined up the sights the best I could, squeeze the trigger, and bang. And we're like, well, duh, that's what happens. Go figure, right? So he was like, while the pistol was still manageable, even comfortable to hold and fire, that's actually positive, right? The rifle was a different beast altogether. So far, he hasn't said anything negative to a degree, right? He was like, okay, it was comfortable to hold and fire. It didn't beat me up. but the rifle was a different animal. Duh, right? And he said,
rifles are different than pistols, yes.
Yeah, and now this is where the talisman effect kicks in. He was like, it's a different beast altogether. Everything, its weight, its tactical scope, its overall lethality, that's intimidating. No, you're just a vegetarian. I'm sorry.
No shit. Fucking shoot you in the head with the pistol. You're just as fucking dead as if they shot you with the rifle in the head.
So the writer's like, hang in there, Kevin. You can do this. When ready, I lined up the target and the crosshairs, pulled the stock into my shoulder and squeezed the trigger, and ba-boom! Okay. The first AR I ever shot was the one I built. It was 7.5 inches, and yes, it did go ba-boom, because the concussion was right in front of me. Literally 7.5 inches away from my face. I could understand describing it as that.
First AR was a 16-inch build.
Oh, no, you're right. My first was a 16. The first one I fired was my 7-inch build, though. That's a weird story. So he goes, again, he seemed unprepared for what resulted when the trigger is pulled. But anyway, it is difficult to describe the impact, physical and personal, of that first shot. It felt like a meteor had struck the earth in front of me. A deep shockwave coursed through my body, the recoil rippling through my arms and right shoulder with astounding power. Being that close to an explosion of such magnitude.
Sean, he should try shooting 308, 30-06, or 45-70 out of lever action.
You've only done it once. Anyway.
Well, it was more than once, but still.
Being close to that explosion of such magnitude, controlled and focused as it was, rattled me. Now, he's still not being negative, okay? When I read that paragraph, let me do it again. It felt like a meteor had struck the earth in front of me. A deep shockwave coursed through my body, the recoil rippling through my arms and right shoulder. As I grabbed Maria, I could feel the heat of her breath as she quivered in fear and delight at the same time as I pulled out my throbbing manhood. This guy's in the wrong line of work, isn't he? He just sexualized firing this gun, and I love it. I'm sorry.
He should be writing erotic novels instead.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I bled into that, because that is exactly what I thought. You know, like this is Julio and Ramon fighting over the lovely Maria.
But
you know,
that is
awesome.
Liberal. What that is a liberal saying that people who have guns have little dicks.
Well, no, this guy's just romanticizing the experience, and so far he's still not really being negative. He's just describing what he thought. And yeah,
I'm sure there's a catch-all or there's a wait for it.
Well, he's hamming it up, right? So he goes, oh dear. I composed myself. Now here's the part that Kuntsman didn't do. I composed myself and continued to fire round after concussive round. Puffs of acrid gunpowder smoke carried down range by a powerful ventilation system. My accuracy gradually improved until it became easier and easier to hit the target with the rifle at 25 yards as I would with the pistol at 5. Okay? So what he's done here is he said, I grew a pair of nuts and I finished out the mag and I improved, and that the range ventilation system worked as it should. He's not saying that it was a horrible experience. He was just describing the experience. So far, that's all good, right? So the writer who wrote the story was like, whew, like, so far, so good. And he goes, it's nice that McCallum was able to compose himself enough to finish out the magazine and put rounds on paper. However, quote, it was exhilarating, but I never got comfortable firing it. I'm not sure what scared me more, the power of that weapon or the fact that I could have taken one home that day. Yeah, owning an AR-15 is quite an emotional experience. Look at the girl in the picture right there. She looks pretty happy. Only one that about 20 to 30 million Americans have been able to handle so far. Now look, this guy's ending is he never got comfortable firing it, right? The second...
He'd probably put one mag through it.
Well, still.
Right.
The second pistol I ever bought was a .44 Magnum revolver, my competitor. When I fired it the first time, I only took .44 specials because I didn't know what to expect, you know? Like, I was in uncharted territory, but I was eager to master it. That's the difference. I wanted to master it. Okay, this guy just wanted to experience it. And I think his experience is hamstringed by the fact that he needs to do the same thing with that AR-15 as I had to do with my .44 Magnum. Build up to it. Go a second time. Go a third time. Because what's going to happen is your first shots are your jitters. Your second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth shots, you're like, oh, okay, this is what I can expect. And then maybe, you know, when you're done that day and you go home, in my case, my elbow hurt a bit and my shoulder hurt a bit because I used muscles in that part of my body that I haven't used before. The recoil goes through parts of your body that certain exercises just won't help you build. Muscle memory with firearms is an exercise in its own. So the second time I went, way more accurate, way more comfortable. My recovery time was way faster because now my body knew what was coming and how to deal with it. By the second trip, I was shooting full house .44 Magnums. So, like, it was no big deal. This guy shouldn't be scared or comfortable or uncomfortable. He just went through the first day jitters. And that's fine. A lot of us go through that. That's perfectly acceptable. If I could have gotten this guy's ear and saw his story, I would have wrote to him a reply. Hey, I'm glad you took the time. You hammed it up just a little too much, but at least you were still overall kind of positive. As an ambassador to firearms, I would highly encourage you to take about a week off, go back and try it again. Try to remember the fundamentals the range safety officer taught you. Take your time, try it again. And I promise you, I would wager that your next experience will not be nearly as nervous as your last one. That's what we do. You, me, Scott, everybody watching. That's what we do, okay? We enjoy this. We enjoy the freedom of it. We enjoy the responsibility of it. We enjoy the act of doing it. Here's another happy girl, by the way. Anyway, we enjoy it, and we want to share that joy with others. If you're nervous, we want to alleviate your fear. We want to alleviate the tension and the anxiety. I take my girlfriend shooting. It's the same way. You know, she has a 9. Then I bring a 40. Then I bring a 10 millimeter. Then I bring a 454 Casull. Then I bring a 500 Magnum and a 45-70 lever gun. She was nervous as all get out. She started with her 9, and I worked her up. And by the time she got to the 45-70, I couldn't have it back. She went through 90 rounds of my ammo. 45-70. She went through all of it. We left there, she was excited and frisky, to be honest.
Well, now, if you're a timid liberal, I suggest you start right off the top with the 500 Magnum.
No, we're not trying to kill them. We're not trying to kill them. We're trying to... Look, we want to change their minds, but not ballistically, Tony. Come on.
Hey, whatever works.
So anyway, yeah, this guy, in all honesty, I don't think this writer was ultra terrible. I don't see it. I see a guy who went the first time. He described his experience. He may have over-exaggerated a bit, let's be honest. But overall, he could be, with the right set of comments in his story, convinced, hey, try it again. It's always better. Well, what does that sound like? Okay, baby, let's try it a second time. Trust me, it's always better and it hurts a whole lot less. He popped his AR cherry. I'm sorry, that's what it is. That's all it is. Anyway. All right, so my last story of the day is positive and it is upbeat and uplifting. So, yay. I called this Bob Gibbs, the hero we need. And it is right here.
Is he the hero we deserve?
He is. So some of you may have heard me talk about this for the last couple of weeks in the daily chats. And I've been talking about this to my local friends for years. Houston has a congressman by the name of Al Green. And I pick on him a lot because he sort of reminds me of Zorba the Greek. the way he looks. He's really annoying. He's a Democrat. He's in a very Democrat-heavy district. Thankfully, not the one I live in. And he had spent week after week after week for almost 5 years bringing up articles of impeachment against Donald J. Trump. From the day he won the election to the day he left office. It's almost 5 years. And I thought, you got nothing that sticks. There's no crime. There's no evidence of the crime. There's no case here. You're just wasting everyone's time. But it went on. Maybe he lost, but he still did it. And I thought, here we have Captain Sundowner and his merry band of idiots actually committing crimes out in the open, telegraphing their intentions and doing it on a daily basis. Where is the congressman on our side who's going to step up and grow a set of balls and bring up actual articles of impeachment for actual crimes being committed with this administration? Enter Bob Gibbs, congressman out of Ohio. Must have finally heard me. Because I wrote congressmen all over the country. And I'm like, step up and do your job. And I thought, the problem is you may be the guy or the woman brave enough to step forward and do this. And you may win. You may actually impeach the guy. You may have him removed from office. But you may have just committed political suicide in the process. You will be a pariah. It will be your greatest sacrifice of self-service to the nation. You're supposed to serve the people. It may cost you your job, but serve the people. And that's what this guy has done. He's going up there saying that the Biden administration is in dereliction of their duty for allowing the borders to be a sieve. And he needs to refine and hone his accusations to actual crimes. And me being, a psychologist and an eloquent motherfucker, I'm going to help him. I'm going to help you, Mr. Gibbs. You can charge the president for dereliction of duty for willingly and knowingly allowing a multinational coalition of diseased criminal invading armies through the border, thus violating the sanctity of the nation and the borders of that nation, which you have sworn an oath to protect. Stop letting him wipe his ass with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and nail him to the wall, and take out his vice president knee pads while you're at it, because she ain't no better. This guy is the hero we all need, and the one we deserve. And I'm glad that, hopefully, because Ohio is still a red state, he'll get to keep his job for doing it. Because we finally got one. We finally got a guy willing to step up and do what needs to be done. This needs to be done. Because he's not, this guy's just going to continue getting away with it. Unless someone finally takes him to court. Anyway, that's my news. That's my dude. If you're in Ohio, that's your dude. Support that man. Keep him in office, keep him in power, keep him going, and hopefully he's the snowflake that starts the avalanche and wins back the midterm for a more sensible party. I'm not saying
be careful with the terminology.
Yeah, like a more sensible party. Out of the two, the more sensible of the two. That's all I'm saying. I think there's an argument happening outside of my room. Every once in a while I hear screaming, and I know this isn't going to end well today. So anyway, that was the news. thank you all for putting up with it. So let's get into, I guess, well, no, we don't have to do that yet. All right, so I have time. Conspiracy theory segment. I don't know if I'm going to make a habit of this, but I really wanted to share this with you all. And it may put some fear into you, and it should, because it should motivate you to say the things you need to say, write the people you need to write, possibly do the things you need to do. But let me paint you a picture. Gather round, children, it's story time. China, you're going to love this. China, a few years ago, lifted its restrictions for the number of kids that you can have. This was followed up by repeated incursions, kind of poking the borders with Taiwan, more tension with Hong Kong, a lot of tension with Australia, through Indonesia, basically, right? So that's all going on. And at the same time, in this process, a biological weapon was released onto the world that caused the leaders of nations to show their true colors and to abuse emergency powers to lock down the entire world, to isolate people. In the process, they have created an entire generation of low-educated children by allowing them to graduate. In the first year of this, they graduated high school with only 8 weeks of school, because that's when the lockdowns began. By the 9th week of school, almost all the schools were locked down. And in the first year, my neighbor's son graduated, and he only went to school for 8 weeks. When I was in school, if you missed 8 days, you didn't get credit, and you were considered truant, and there was a criminal charge that you had to fight. But because the government did it, it was 8 weeks. Whatever. So that happened.
What, Sean? You didn't have notes?
No, if you skipped school, stuff like that. So anyway,
I always had notes.
If you take the children and you make them lowly educated, and then you lock down the nation and you give these children and young people no money or extra money, so it's more beneficial for them to stay out of work because they make more money than going to work. You've crippled industry, you've crippled education, you have made the younger generation completely dependent on the government that is currently abusing these emergency powers, and you've created an entire generation of introverts with low social skills, and they're not dating, and they're not going out. And when you're not dating and you're not going out, you're not, doing the deed, right? You got all this going on. Plus, you've got a coward of a president who is basically crushing the military down and pulling us out of everywhere, leaving places in power vacuums. Story broke 2 days ago that the Taliban have already conquered a provincial capital of Afghanistan, and we still haven't even left yet. Like, we're still not fully out of there yet, okay? So my theory is this was a plan by the president of China that he started when he lifted the child restrictions out of his own country. And he has slowly and methodically built up a system now that makes him president for life, so he can see it through to the end. He has already telegraphed and he has already said that we're gearing up for war sometime between the years 2030 to 2050. What's really funny about those numbers is those are the years he said he would finally begin to, quote, consider the Paris Climate Accord. But in the meantime, he's not going to follow it because he's gearing up for war. He's got factories churning and turning and burning out weapons and ships and planes. Now, they don't have what you would call a classical intercontinental navy, but he's got one hell of a landing force type navy. And he's got some submarines, but they're very loud and easy to track, for now. And he does have quite an impressive air force. They've got fighters that are pretty impressive. Granted, they copied and stole technology from everyone else,
Right.
but it doesn't take away from the fact that he still has them. They do
Sean,
have... What?
To beleaguer a point, they could always weaponize and use the cargo ships as troop transports.
Correct. But they do have an impressive air force. They also have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're also a nuclear power, right? And they're building all this right now. And they're thumbing their nose at the Paris Climate Accord. So the theory is this is all pieces of a game of chess that was put in motion by a man who is now the leader for life until he is dead or steps down. And he's going to declare war on the world. He's already threatened to attack Australia. He's already planning to push south. In the 1930s, the Japanese did the same thing. They pushed into Manchuria. They pushed into Southeast Asian island countries for their oil. And they were trying to cripple Australia. This is China repeating the exact same battle plan as the Japanese. And what's really unfortunate is they are breeding the army to do it right now. Now,
yeah, that
they
didn't
started
work out so well for the Japanese, though.
Right, but this is a much bigger nation. So they started this when the child restrictions were lifted. So most of the kids are already 10, 12, 13 years old. By 2030, they're military-aged soldiers, well-trained, highly motivated, highly brainwashed by propaganda. And the next generation of replacement soldiers are being born right now because they don't have restrictions. They released a weapon that just created a global population drop because everyone else is locked down with a bad case of cabin fever, no social skills, and probably no girlfriends, right? They're breeding an army for a war that's coming, and by the time we're stuck in it, the world, we're going to have a bunch of children and old men in that army, and they're going to have kids in their prime. That's my theory. That's my E Honda level theory. And that's dangerous. Because if you think about it, they're a nation of over 1 billion people. They can conscript within a month an army force the size of our entire country's population and still have room to spare. That's scary. And what's really odd to me is
to be us now.
Well, yeah. But see, the really odd thing is nobody's talking about the neighbors. India, no comment. Russia, no comment.
Pakistan.
What backroom deal is going on between China and, like, Russia? Because honestly, if something were to go down, the Russians are already right where they need to be to stop it. And yet, not a peep. Nobody's saying anything. Is it because nobody sees it? Or nobody's... This theory that I just put up, there's no way in hell that nobody else in the world has thought of that. Somebody else has thought of this. Somebody else has probably called in Russia. Somebody else is probably in Putin's cabinet going, hey, did you ever think that maybe this is going on? Or somebody in India going, hey, do you maybe think there's something going on? Because there's no way I'm the only one who sees this. So that's my theory segment. I wanted to put it out there because I've been slowly putting these pieces together. I don't know how much of it I believe. You know, I usually do conspiracy theories for fun, like a social exercise, because I'm a psychologist and I have taken sociology and I've been working towards those things for years. And we do exercises like that. We play out the what ifs and we're trying to figure out how this is all going to go down. But if it does, the world's going to be caught with its pants down. Everyone's still locked down. Nobody's having kids. Birth rates are lower than they've ever been. Like, the housing market is not as healthy as it once was. People aren't buying houses again. People can't buy cars right now because chip shortage, because COVID, right? Optical drive manufacturers, even in my own line of work, most of them have canceled all their new models because chip shortage, because COVID. Olympics, lowest ratings in history. $20 billion in the hole financially because they're not allowed to have fans because COVID. Nobody's watching it either.
Because it's on fucking 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but
I watch it.
They do replays later. But the whole fact of the matter is everything's locked down except in China. Their business as usual. Their business
China's
as usual.
locking down again.
Let's get real
They're
here.
saying they are. They're
About
locking
the
down those
Olympics.
who are unusable.
I'm actually sitting here watching the Olympics right now.
Yeah. Is it
Girls
the replay?
water polo.
Is it the replay?
No.
It's like the middle of the night in Japan.
I'm going to tell you.
Anyway, I like throwing that out there. I had a second one, but I can't remember what it was, so it's probably not that good. But I put a lot of thought into that. You know, I even told my mentor that theory the other day, and he goes, "Thanks, I really needed that." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I didn't need that level of extra panic now." I don't know. Most of us are doing our part. We're still going to work. We're still doing our 9 to 5s. We're still taking care of our stuff. We're still buying guns and making ammo, right? So, I mean, behind every blade of grass is a guy like me with 70 guns. So.
Well, I'm doing my part, keeping in practice of making babies.
I thought you were done with that.
You said keeping
I
in
am.
practice.
No,
I'm keeping in practice, though.
Oh, I thought you were just keeping in practice by, breeding the next generation of dogs that can sniff out commies or something.
Nah.
You could do that.
I could, but fucking dogs are too annoying.
See, I'm just breeding small herds of early detection systems. I may have told you this before, but like, my dogs get up at 10 minutes to daylight every day, which is usually about 10 to 6. And I have to get up, let them out, go back to bed, right? Well, every morning when I get up and let them out, it sounds like someone took a recording of a group of people getting ready for a fox hunt and sped up the audio so everything's chipmunk sounding, because obviously Yorkies don't sound like basset hounds. But, you have a gaggle of Yorkies and they sound like they're preparing for a fox hunt. It is kind of funny, but it's really irritating when you're trying to go back to sleep. Like, super irritating. So yeah, I bred the early detection system. China has the world's largest air force, so if they went to war, they'd destroy the country they'd be at war with. I'm just saying. No, you're right. And I talked to George about this, my coworker, because I didn't know the answer, and he kind of does, because he's a modeler in his spare time. So he keeps up with, like, militaria, like ships, planes, tanks, you name it. He keeps up on that a lot because he wants to make the most accurate models he can. He's very good at it. Like, I'll share a picture with it next week because I got to dig it out. But he built me a Challenger tank and a Russian Object 279 that you guys have to see. He's got a skill. But yeah, you're right. They do have a Continental bomber. And I didn't know that. I asked him, I think it was yesterday, I said, "George, do the Chinese have a Continental bomber?" And he says, "Yes." And I said, "Is it sort of a copy of the Russian Tu-95? And he goes, "Oh, no, it's way better." And I'm like, "Oh." So he showed it to me. It's like a jet of some sort. But it is pretty impressive. I mean,
well, they tried copying the B-2.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a nation that steals patents and copyrights and materials, you sort of become... Now, some of you older guys are going to understand this. China has become the AMC of the military, actually of the world. And the AMC I'm talking about is not American Movie Classics. I'm talking about American Motor Company. Those guys did the same thing, but they bought the technologies. They didn't steal it. So, for instance, AMC's built Jeeps for years. And one of my first ones, it had an AMC domestic V8, but it had a Chrysler transmission. It had a new process transfer case. It had Dana axles, so those parts are pretty universal. It had a Ford electrical system, a General Motors cruise control system. So you see where I'm going with this. They took bits and pieces of what they thought was the best that they can use for a certain system that didn't cost them that much. Like, this is the best we can do for this amount of money for the best quality. And that's what China's doing. They stole the technology from all these different countries, and then they took the best of the best. It's like a greatest hits of all these pieces to create their fighter. They have a fighter plane that looks like a cross between the F-22 and the Eurofighter Typhoon, because they thought,
oh man,
they thought these were the best of these technologies, so they put them together.
I cannot wait to see China's Pacer.
Cherry Motors. That's all you need to know. Look up Cherry Motors. Because that's exactly what you're looking for. That's what they're doing. You know, Clarkson did this story, I think, before Top Gear officially ended with them, talking about how in 25 years' time, the world, most of the world will be buying cars that are manufactured in China. And they're not wrong. We're already driving on tires made in China. Go to Amazon and look up tires, and look up half the names of the tires. More than half the names are Chinese names. I was driving the other day home from work, and there was I think it was a Chevy Avalanche, and it was on 26-inch wheels. And I look over, and the only thing I could see in these big block letters on the tire is Ling Long. And I'm like, American truck, American wheels, Chinese tires. And then I looked at my car and it says Kumo, which I think is Japanese. But yeah, Clarkson's right. We're going to be driving Chinese cars. Some of them actually look pretty good. I can't deny it. Some of them look good. But their first offerings, they were crap. Like,
because they keep stealing their shit from
right.
us.
Well, yeah. BMW sued China for a vehicle that was a blatant ripoff of the X5 in almost every quantifiable way on the outside. They lost. The court shut it down and told BMW, go pound sand.
Yeah, but where did they sue them?
Switzerland? I think Switzerland. But anyway, the point is they take the best of what they think is the best for each part. They put it together and they build this technology. So they have jets that have the best of America and Europe. They have tanks that are the best of America and Russia and Germany. They have submarines that suck. I'm sorry, they're not good. They're loud. A sonar operator 11,000 miles away can hear the venting of the engine from a Chinese sub. They're freaking loud, but they're getting better at it. They take something, they steal it, they improve on it over time, and then it becomes better. I mean, the Russians did it too, let's be honest. The Russians interred, quotes, B-29s. And then they let the crews go, but they wouldn't turn the planes back over, because their crews desperately took it apart and measured everything and took millions of pictures and technical drawings. And it became the Tupolev Tu-4 bomber in 1946. They flew
Even though
it
the
over...
pedals were copied down to the point where they said Boeing on them.
Yes, I think you're right. But the only difference is the Tu-4 had slightly weaker engines, and it was a lot heavier, because we did it in Imperial, and they measured in metric, and the closest they could get was always a size up metric. So the skin was thicker, the frame was thicker, the wheels, like the tubes for the suspension on the wheels were thicker, so it was heavier. But imagine the world's surprise when an entire flight of Tu-4 Tupolev bombers flew over Red Square. And America was like, how the hell did they get our B-29? They copied it to the letter. So yeah, China's doing the same thing. We laugh at their aircraft carriers. They bought one, right? They bought a Russian one, and then they built one, which was supposed to be a copy/improved model of the Russian one. It's still not great, but you can see that they're getting better. You give a belligerent group enough time, and you give them enough time to gain confidence to hone their skills. It's just like we talked about with how to stop criminals from becoming criminals and installing 50-state constitutional carry. It's the exact same premise. You get a guy who walks into a store with a pistol in his pocket, and he's going to rob the place for the first time, and he's nervous. He might even have thrown up before he walked in. He holds the place up, he succeeds, he leaves, and in hindsight, he looks back and he gains confidence because he goes like, I got away with it. This is what I can do better the next time. And then the next time they rob, they're more belligerent, they're more aggressive, they're more fluid and refined in how they're going to do it, and they get better at it. Eventually to the point where when something finally goes wrong, they'll kill someone without hesitation. That is what China's industrial complex is doing. They get away with stealing it, they copy it, they keep improving on it, they keep gaining more confidence because they're not getting taken for stealing it. And they're going to get to the point where they're going to start killing somebody with it. It's the exact same thing. And the world just seems to turn a blind eye to it. And they will continue to do so until the world finally says, we don't need you to be the world's manufacturer. We don't need you to be our factory anymore.
That's already happening.
That's slowly. Because I'll use this as an example.
Because of COVID, they lost a ton in manufacturing.
Well, I'll use this as an example. Angelina outsources a lot of her work to them because it's cheaper manufacture, right? Now take a business like hers and multiply it times 4 billion businesses all across the world. They're all doing it. And until the world stops and says, we are going to stop investing in child slave labor, or we're going to stop investing in a country that's communist, that's using this money to work against the world and building an army. Until the world collectively says that, they're going to continue to get away with it because everyone keeps turning a blind eye to it because they want cheap labor.
Well, that's the thing. China is no longer cheap labor because China has a middle class now.
Yeah, but it's a middle class that still has to fall in line with the communist regime. You're middle class because we have allowed it.
The textile manufacturing
yeah.
to Vietnam and India.
I have insight on why that is.
Cost of labor.
No, it's the tariffs. When before the tariff wars began between China and the United States with Trump, all LG, all Lite-On, all Asus optical drives were manufactured in China. When the tariffs kicked in, it almost tripled the price after shipping, logistics, and taxes. So Lite-On moved their manufacturing facilities to Vietnam. LG moved their manufacturing facilities to the Philippines. And Asus moved to India to lower the tariffs. That's all it is. Zorro asks, do we recommend the Galil Ace in 7.6239 or 5.56? And
yes.
The answer for me was and will always be, because the Galil sort of reminds me of an AK, I'm always going to say 7.6239. Just because I think that's the caliber it belongs in. On the same token, I have an interest in owning a Daewoo K2 now, but I want one in 7.6239 and that's called the D300 because it sort of reminds me of a Galil, not the Ace, but it sort of reminds me of a Galil. So I kind of want one.
I'm gonna be the dissenter,
Sure.
because I was influenced before I got into guns. I was a video gamer, and yeah, the Galil in video games is always in 5.56. So I'm going 5.56.
That's fine.
But,
I mean, commonality caliber is totally
here's the
fine.
thing. Here's the thing. The Galil is also in 308 or 7.62x51 as well.
Or if you want to spend huge freaking money, you can get them in 5.45.
Pass.
Yeah. Pass.
But I would say 5.56 would be a better option.
Yeah.
5.56 for finding that more ammo.
AK and 7.6239 is always going to be cheaper than 5.56.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's more steel case offerings too.
Well, by its nature, it's a steel cased ammo.
Yeah.
So it's that much cheaper to make than brass case.
Yep. It's a reloader's nightmare, but so are anything with food.
You don't reload steel case.
No.
But looking at his geographic area, I would say get the 5.56 because you'll probably find 223 more so than 7.62x39.
Oh, while he's still in the chat, I want to make this public. Everybody, take the time to congratulate Jaime because he's technically engaged now. Like his arranged marriage is arriving later today. Like seriously, she will be there later today, and I have to admit I'm kind of jealous. It's like some people, all the right fruit dropped to their feet, and like he earned it and he deserves it, and everyone deserves to be happy, but like his situation is really cool. Like, him and his family, they have a ranch, and her family has, I think, a trucking company, logistics and stuff. So, yeah, it's like it's a Game of Thrones. We shall combine houses and become powerful. That's what it is. And he got himself an older lady. Ooh.
I thought you were going to go with she's from Texas.
She is from Texas. So, like, yeah, like everything was perfect. But yeah, she'll be here later today. And he may not have been nervous before, but I bet I made him nervous now. She's coming, dude. She's coming. You better do a once over on that house right now. You better start lighting up that incense. Better have them candles out. You better have some Sade. Yup. Maybe a bottle of Pinot Grigio. Or maybe have Squib make you up a couple of Manhattans. Be real classy. Yeah.
He's going to have to play some what?
Sade.
Well, are you sure that?
Yeah. Well,
right.
I don't know. She's from Texas. You might be able to get away with playing H-Town's Knockin' the Boots. Give me some good love. Yeah.
Or just skip the music and knock boots.
Wow.
There's that too.
Nah, music helps. Takes the slapping sounds away.
There
he is.
There he is.
You just had to make it worse.
I had to make it worse. Come on, man. Let me put this thought into your head, okay? I told Tony this joke years ago. Could you just imagine what it must be like to be the wife of Jerry Michalek? I mean, they had a long day. The kids are all gone. Maybe she's had a couple of glasses of rosé. She's starting to purr like a kitten. She's like pawing at the ground and snorting like a bull ready to go, And he's like, "Hang on, baby, hang on. I got something for you." He disappears into the bathroom, and then he comes back out in a bright cobalt blue bathrobe with a Smith & Wesson logo right across the chest, and he starts twirling that little belt, going, "Yeah, get some." And then she sees that, and she's like, "Oh God, just get it over with." So I'm gonna overnight you a Smith & Wesson dressing gown. Yeah,
funny.
get
That is
some.
funny.
All right, so we got 6 minutes. There's 5 of you. So
Like 6.
This is the part where I say, so what are you guys doing this weekend? Jaime, we already know. Like, we already know.
Yeah, I'm wanting to be married in like 3 hours.
We know. Incense, Sade, peach body oil, little GTA 5 for you. Oh yeah, you're gonna want some Red Bull, like a lot of it. Gatorade, because you got to replace some
bro,
electrolytes.
No,
Yeah.
bro.
There you go.
I got an energy drink called Bang.
Bang! There you go. Just make sure all the bed sheets are like easy to wipe down.
Yeah, it's really fitting, actually.
Like just staple gun a bunch of sheet plastic to the walls, and she'll be like, "Are you gonna murder me?" And then you just whip out this big bottle of salad oil, and you're like, "Nah."
Yeah.
Nah. All right. So what are you doing this weekend, Tony?
I'm not doing a goddamn thing.
So more of the same.
I may go try to get the other steering wheel for my mower, but I don't know. It's pretty fucking hot outside here.
Yeah, it's too late. You came here in the morning, day's over. Scott, I know you're picking up a Type 38. Can't wait to see you post pics. Anything else you doing today?
Not much.
Some gunsmithing.
Yes, gunsmithing.
Mike, how about you?
Oh, hoping maybe it's dry enough to go outside and use the backyard range.
Oh, God, I wish
We've been having a lot of rain lately over here.
Yeah, I wish I had a backyard range. Our tsunami season sort of finally ended, or monsoon season.
It hasn't. It's been raining off and on all week, and I haven't been able to, get enough time to go out in the backyard and shoot. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Sam of Anarchy brought up a good point. You can put on some Marvin Gaye. Oh, you know what else?
Marvin Gaye all day.
This is a lesser known. I actually know it isn't, but I always said that if I got married, I was going to sing this at my wedding. Al Green's the not the congressman, the singer, Al Green's Show and Tell. If you can pull that song off with the background music, you will have quadruplets. Like instantly. Like that song will put a woman in the mood. I don't care from what age she is. That song has no age limit. It works for everybody. I'm singing it at my own wedding someday.
What the hell is it? I want to write this down.
Al Green's Show and Tell. I'd play it, but we'd get copyright struck. It's brilliant.
Shit.
It is so good. Like, I used to joke that you can stop all violence in Chicago if you play Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On the storm warning siren PA system across the entire city. You play that song every morning at 7:30 as everyone's getting up and getting ready to go to work. That intro to What's Going On and the story that song tells, that'll make a motherfucker think twice about hurting each other. That is such a good song. Like, my friends locally, they tell me that I'm a black dude trapped in an Asian's body. Because, like, if you see what I drive, if you saw what I used to smoke, if you know the music I listen to and soul music I love, I'm a black dude in an Asian guy's body. I just am. Fuck it. I'll own that. But yeah, Show and Tell, Al Green. That's the first song you play for her. You can get into some Marvin Gaye. You can get into freaking... you can get into some 9 Inch Nails, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Closer.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Or Bloodhound Gang. Yeah, you can do a little bit of Bloodhound Gang. The Discovery Channel song. You'd love that one.
Wow.
All right, so what am I doing the rest of the weekend? First of all, I've got to go out into my living room and see if my dad choked the life out of my mother, because it has gotten eerily quiet outside. Even the dogs aren't barking. Then I have to try, if they didn't kill each other and they weren't actually fighting, convince them to get the hell out of my house so I can hang the third rifle rack up. I will do a short video on my rifle racks just as an update, because I had this really cool thing in the last video where I started showing the names of the guns down the racks as I panned. And I kind of want to do that for all 12. I think it'd be kind of cool. And then hopefully, do I really want to do that? Yeah, I'll do I'll record the episode on the Siamese Mauser today. This old gat. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I'm going to finally get off my ass and do it. So anyway, I've got just enough time now to play this song here and take the time to thank you all for watching. And maybe if you know somebody who knows of us that was from Gun Channels, maybe tell them that we're here and invite them over to the Discord as well. If you want to join the Discord, drop me an email in the description below and just leave your name or your Discord name or your Gun Channels name, and I'll send you an invite. Thank my panel for all being here. Pretty good show. Can't believe 2 hours goes by as quick as it does, but it is what it is, and we will see you all next week. Actually, if you're part of the lobbies, we'll see you Monday. But chances are I'll be on throughout the day too.
Before you go to the music, I want to add one more tune to the seduction list, and that's
music's been going.
Ride.
What's it?
Foghat Slow Ride.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally. All right. Anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one.